Hi everyone, my name is Catherine Tao and I'm the host of the Data Standard Audio Experience. And today we have an amazing guest. We have Anthony Jerkovic, the head of data and risk at Novo. And today we're going to be speaking about development of data science teams in the fintech space. So thank you so much for joining us today. Anthony, I'm very excited to speak with you and just learn more about your industry.
Thanks, Catherine. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. And so everyone kind of has their own career path in data science with how they just started in data science. So how did you kind of break into this industry, into the data science world?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it happened by accident, but certainly it wasn't necessarily a very linear path either. So in my undergrad studied economics and finance. I then worked in the Australian military for a while, and then in corporate advisory. So obviously really more heading in the business direction, finance direction. I work with mining companies, not data mining, not crypto mining, but actually rocks out of the ground kind of mining. And as I was doing that, I think one of the things that triggered my interest in the data space was how decisions get made, right? So how is a valuation determined, and the mix between the different variables that go into that, mixed with the opinions, right? So how much does the opinion of the geologist kind of implicate that data? And so I guess naturally from there, I found an analytics program to do in my master's, and through the way that we network and the way that life works, I found myself at an early stage tech company, which is Novo, working in the fintech space. So kind of a bit of a non-conventional path, but happy to be working in the space.
Yeah, and it's awesome to hear that you didn't exactly start off with data science, but your path kind of just led you to data science. So it's awesome that you kind of enjoy your work, it sounds like. So can you tell me more about your work with Novo and kind of just building this data science team? How was it like scaling up your team?
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined Novo when we had 0 users, $0 of transaction volume. So when I talk about scaling a data science team, it's almost a little bit of a funny subject, but I can speak to this kind of the data function, I guess. I personally, when I first got to the company, was working really more in the marketing side of things, doing kind of totally unrelated work to what I am now, which is pretty characteristic, I think, for anyone who's worked in a startup. You wear multiple hats and bounce around. As different needs arise, I kind of found myself working in the area of risk. Obviously, when it comes to identity verification, fraud detection, behavioral analysis, there's kind of like a pretty big need for that. So I kind of naturally fell into that space, and that's what I'm still doing now, albeit with a few kind of changes in direction as I go, right? So I really didn't know a whole lot about banking as an industry where I started, but now I'm kind of very involved in the banking side. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so now I kind of want to hear more about some challenges that maybe you faced with building this data science team. So in your experience, what were some of the biggest challenges that you saw when building your data science teams?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing in particularly is sort of for early stage companies, small companies, is balancing between, I guess, what we would define as exciting analysis and kind of more complex solutions versus quick delivery and actionable insights, right? At the end of the day, we're not Google. We don't have unlimited resources. And so when we are going to go out and, we're finding a problem and trying to find the answer to that problem, it's pretty important that we do identify what it is and deliver on it quickly. And what that means sometimes is that we're not going to necessarily, approach it in the same way that you would at a big company. We don't have the same 3-month or however long timeline. It's all about iteration and kind of quick delivery. So it's certainly a challenge because the other side of me is saying, hey, we want to do, you almost want to use as many complex methods as you can for your own growth, but also because it is, hopefully going to give you a better or more accurate kind of answer in the end.
Right, absolutely. And with all this data that your company kind of works with, or any company really works with, it kind of drives that business model and that business side. So you're able to kind of extract these business decisions from the data findings and the tech findings that everybody works on and finds. So how did you kind of bridge this gap between the tech and business side of things? Because some people are usually more focused on one side of things. So how did you kind of learn both sides and be able to work together to make it happen at your company?
Yeah, this is a great one, and I'm going to go on a slight tangent, but I think it is relevant. Back, with my previous work experience, I didn't do any coding at all. I didn't know really anything about computer science. I didn't know what SQL was. I didn't know what Python was. And particularly kind of my age as well, being that sort of late Gen Y, I felt that everyone that's, the generation before me, well, they're already kind of established in what they're doing. They might be middle level management or higher. And everyone younger than me was coding from the time they could walk, or at least it seemed that way, right? And so that's going back to the first question of how did I end up here? Well, I see it as a necessity, right? I think the business analyst of tomorrow is going to be very similar to the data analyst of today, right? And so when it comes to bridging the gap between tech and business, I think there's a lot of, it's the responsibility of the business side to know what question to ask, and the right way to ask it, as much as it is for the tech or the data side to be able to provide the answer to those questions. A lot of the time that is impossible if you don't have any technical experience. So what we've done at our company is the best we can to get everybody to, I guess, a certain level of, let's say, data literacy. People need to understand basic statistics. If they can do basic SQL, it's great because, well, they can say, hey, well, I'm trying to pull this data set or I'm trying to understand this problem. I think I'm going in the right direction, and then hand it off to someone who does have more experience. And, you've already probably, taken hours potentially of meetings away, or you'd have to kind of explain and find that problem. So I think just general literacy of the systems and languages is really important.
Yeah, I totally agree. And with kind of knowing the tech side and the business side of things, there's usually some major gaps that can be found within this collaboration of both sides. So what are some of the major gaps that you see between the tech and business side industry as a whole together?
That's another great question. I feel like as an industry that has been, great moves in a certain direction. I think there's also in some cases you can have underrated or overrated things. So what I mean by that is when we're talking about data and kind of solving solutions with the information that we have available to us, I think it's far more important that we are using it more often than it is that we're using it in the most complex way. And certainly some of the best advice that I've taken on board from a lot of data scientists that I've talked to is, if you can solve a problem with Excel, why go and run a random forest, right? I know we all want to do that because that's what we, might have studied, and it's kind of the fun thing to do. But, there are a lot of situations where I would say a potential solution gets totally overlooked because of a lack of understanding, right, of the stakeholders, that they simply don't get analysis that was done maybe. And so a more simple way of kind of presenting it to them can mean that you get a lot more done. So I guess another way of coming at that though is saying, hey, well, if stakeholders understood more about it and had that literacy, you would be more effective. But it's sort of just not a straight line. I think there's going to be a bit of back and forth as we go, and I see that as a gap, right? Because it's going to prevent certain people moving forward with, you might have an absolute whiz, right, in your company, whether it's a big or small company, and not able to go and kind of provide the value that they potentially could because of that general understanding.
Yeah, and I think it's important how you brought up the idea of some people just kind of wanting to make these complex models in data science just because it's the cool hot new thing in data science to do these complex algorithms. But sometimes the situation or the problem that we're trying to solve is a lot more simple than that, and sometimes it's just more optimal to go a different route than just doing something like a random forest classifier. So totally agree, and I think that's great that you had brought that up, because I don't think enough people really talk about that and bring that up.
Yeah, I was just going to say as well, kind of on top of that, when it comes to languages, I think that this is impacted heavily by the size of company that you're working at, right? For us, for Nova, it's like you don't have a team of people that all day, every day pulls data, and another team of people that cleans data, and another team that kind of interprets. A lot of it has to be done with a very, very small team, or even as an individual. So yeah, it is important to, I think, understand, even if you can't do it yourself, you need to understand that entire process. And I get that at a big company, someone might be sitting there and they can have something brought to them that they can work on straight away. But for those people that are kind of, interested in learning about the way it works from, let's say, start, like a full end-to-end start to finish project, well, small companies, startups, I think give you probably the best platform to really experience that and learn about that.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much for bringing that up. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for being on our podcast and just kind of speaking with me more about the data side of stuff in the fintech space. And so we at the Data Standard, we're trying to build a community of these data thought leaders and data enthusiasts just to have this platform where everyone can network and collaborate with one another. So what's something that we can do for you?
I think what you guys are doing is great. Love the podcast. Any opportunity to collaborate, any opportunity to network is always, a great thing. I'm just excited to see what you guys do going forward and how you grow. But yeah, what you can do for me is just keep on doing what you're doing and you know, give us opportunities, all of us, to get involved.
Yeah, awesome. And thank you for bringing that up. So where can our community kind of connect with you and just find you online?
Yeah, LinkedIn is always good for me. I'm more than happy to kind of connect with people, have a chat. I know with COVID, coffee chats are not really a thing, but virtually I can catch up. And I know that it can be a difficult industry and space for people to break into. So particularly those or people that don't know so much about it or interested, I'm more than happy to kind of provide help if I can. It's always good to give back.
Awesome, thank you. And for more information on the Data Standard, you can find us at www.datastandard.io. And this episode is sponsored by Pandio. They are innovating the tech space with their Apache Pulsar messaging system. So you can learn more about their system and work at pandio.com. And once again, thank you so much for joining us, Anthony. I appreciate your time, and it was so great speaking with you. And we look forward to speaking with you in the future.
Thanks very much, Catherine.